Dear students, welcome to today's lecture on authentication. We all know that authentication plays an important role in security. So, an authentication will deal with the identity of a user. Here, a user can be a person or a program. Okay. After confirming that a user is an authenticated user, then only the computer system or any automated machine will give you access to the requested resource. For example, when you go to the ATM machine with the proper card and proper PIN or any password, then only it accepts the permission for any kind of request. So it is authenticating you that you are the authenticated user of that account or not. Like that. Authentication mechanism prohibits the use of the system by unauthorized users. Means those who are not eligible for accessing the data cannot access it with the help of authentication. And for any account, we will maintain a password. Without knowing the password, if we are trying to open it, it comes under the concept of intruder or attacker, which we have discussed in our earlier classes. So, authentication will give the guarantee that only the authorized users only access the requested resources. So it verifies the identity of a user. Okay, authentication is nothing but verification of the identity. Uh, Another example, when you go to write any exam, they will check your hall ticket and sometimes even ID card of the college or any workplace. Then only after authorization, they will permit you to write the exam, right? That is nothing but authorized authorization, that is authentication. Okay, so it verifies the identity of a user. Okay, so it basically involves identification and verification. What identifying process is means certain identity by a user will be claimed. See, here we will claim that I am so and so with the help of our identity cards. Like that, identifying it is the process of claiming a certain identity by a user. And verification is the process of verifying the user's claimed identity. And I hope this one is you understood. And it is the process verifies which the user claimed the user identity. Suppose I have given one identity card that I am so and so, and background it verifies that whether I claim whether the one which I claimed as my identity is true or false. That is verification. Okay, is it correct or not? That is verification. So authentication basically involves identification and verification. Okay, and the correctness of this authentication will always depend upon the verification procedure. Okay. And the two types of authentication which are required in a distributed system are user logins authentication, one-way authentication of communicating entities, and two-way communication of the communicating entities. These are the main types of authentication process. So, in the individual stepwise approach, we will see what is the authentication procedure under user logins authentication, and procedure under one-way authentication between communicating entities, means only one will authenticate among the two. Here both will authenticate themselves and they will verify each other's identity. Here it is identity of a user by the system at the time of login, means it verifies with the help of a user ID and password, that is user login authentication. Now, before going to this user login authentication, what are the different approaches to authentication? Means how we can prove ourselves that I am the actual person, like that. How, what are the approaches to authenticate ourselves? Means proof by knowledge. Means these are some of the approaches to authentication, and the first one is proof by knowledge. In this scheme, what we will do means authentication involves verifying something that will be known only to authorized principal only. So authentication of a user based on password uh, supplied by the user is an example of proof by knowledge. Authentication methods based on the concept of this proof by knowledge are again of two types. Means here the user is providing the password and it will be authenticated by the known authorized principal. And these type of proof by knowledge categories are direct demonstration method and challenge response method. Direct demonstration method. So in this, what a user claims his or her identity by supplying information. Okay. So in this proof by knowledge, authentication will involve verifying of the data supplied by the user by authorized person. So this proof by knowledge is categorized into two types, that is direct demonstration method. In this, the user claims his or her identity by supplying information, and the verifier will check whether that supplied information is correct against the pre-stored information or not. Generally our Gmail passwords or Facebook passwords, like that, we are supplying before, means it is pre-stored that information, and that will be checked against the current session. If it is valid, then it gives permission to access the resource. So on the other hand, this another type of proof by knowledge, that is challenge response method. A user proves his or her identity by responding to some challenging questions. Okay. Here it will ask you what is your mother's maiden name, or means your mother's surname, his mother's maiden name. Like that, it asks some list of questions, like your name of your father, name of your grandfather, like that. It asks depending upon the questions, and answers answered by the user, it will authenticate the user. Okay. Proof by knowledge. We know password and we know the names, or we can challenge some questions. So that is challenge response method. Or a system can ask x plus 18 is equal to how much, and it selects the number and it types 123, assuming that he assumes that x is equal to 105. like that he responds to some challenging questions. Okay, this all comes under proof by knowledge. And the next is proof by possession. What in this approach means, a user prove his or her identity by producing some item, and it will be processed or it will be possessed by an authorized principal. So the system is designed to verify the produced item to confirm the claimed identity. For this, the duplicate hall tickets are which will be maintained by the authorized college, or you can also think of this as example of we will have ATM cards and any plastic card with magnetic strip on it has a user identifier number written on it. So it is invisible and in electronic form it may be used as the item produced by the user. So the user inserts the card in a slot, and he identifies it with the help of that card number, and he will think as an authorized user. So security can be ensured only if the item to be produced is not forcible and safely guarded. Okay, so any identity of a person used in military organizations like that, we can think it is a proof by possession. He is possessing that card, and he is showing it as his or her identity, and we will cross check it. Okay, and the next is proof by property. In this, the system is designed to verify the identity of a user by measuring some physical characteristics. Means property, what property we have, that physical characteristics property we have, and they may be distinguishing between user and user, and they are unique among all the possible users. For example, we can think for this authentication mechanism as a biometric devices. So these biometric devices will ensure or authenticate a user, and then only it grants permission. Okay, so these biometric devices will offer greater confidence that a user actually is who he or she is. Okay, so they are generally most expensive to implement all the biometric machines, but this one proof by property and possession and knowledge are the three authentication approaches used to apply to all types of authentication needs in a secure distributed systems. In distributed system, a user will gain access as like in centralized systems only by logging in the host into the system. Means in order to get access in a distributed system, he need to log in first. So user identity will be verified at the time of login, and all the subsequent user activities are attributed with this identity. So correct user identification at the time of login is important, and it gives the permission or any functioning depends on the provided identity. So although the above discussed approaches for authentication can be employed, and proof by knowledge is the most widely used method, and here to provide some good security and to be practically applicable, a password based authentication system must have the following mechanisms. means while the user is logging in or he is logging into a system, he should follow some mechanisms in order to provide good security. First one is keeping passwords secret, means you should not reveal your passwords to your friends or any colleagues like that. So you have to keep your passwords secret. They should not be shared with external world. So to keep passwords secret in a distributed environment, it is very important that passwords should never be saved or sent across the network in a plain text form. If at all, if you want to share your password, you need to encrypt that data, and for this purpose we can use one-way cipher, that is ciphertext. We have discussed that concepts in our cryptography class. So C is equal to E of P comma K, means on plain text the key applied will give you the ciphertext. Like that you have to take authentication depending upon the passwords, and those passwords should be kept secret. They should not be accessible to any other unauthorized users. And the second thing is making passwords difficult to guess. Some mechanisms to keep passwords secret, it does not guarantee that the system's security cannot be broken. Okay, it only says that it is difficult to obtain passwords. So always the intruder will go on with the trial and error basis method. He will guess the passwords, what it might be. Many of us will uh, will take the password as our relatives' names or date of birth in combination with the daughter or son names, father, mother names in combination with the date of birth, like that. So it is very much easy to guess the password. So we should keep the combination of special symbols, longer passwords. We need to take longer passwords, and we have to generate it if at all required via the table, password generating table, or system assistance we can take in order to keep a long difficult passwords. Okay, it should be always mix up of uppercase, lowercase letters and special symbols in combination with numerals also. Alpha numerals along with special symbols is suggested for making password difficult to guess. And the next one is limiting damages done by a compromised password. Compromised is nothing but if that password what we are using is known to any unauthorized person, that is compromised. So how to limit those damages, means if that password is known to an intruder, how to limit the damages, means if anybody knows our pin number and we have missed our card, in such a case we will directly block the ATM card. Like that, how to limit the damages done by a compromised password. If we know that the password is compromised, then we can simply change our password. But if we don't know that intruder has attacked our password and we are not known and we are not aware of it, in such a case we will not change the password. And these three methods of using the methods like implement the idea of one-time passwords, or means one OTP one-time password we will get when any banking transactions we will perform. In that case we will get OTPs like that. To maintain one-time OTPs, even if he knows the password, without giving this OTP, some transactions or some applications support the validity of OTP. In that case only it will give access. Like that we have to limit the damages done by this compromised passwords using OTPs. Or you can also use another method in which it results in one secure ID. You will have some grid format, and you can any debit card will have that grid. At the back side of that ATM card there will be a grid, and some applications will ask, or we can make it compulsory to ask for a grid. In such a case also we will get an OTP. By authenticating the OTP, then only it will complete the transaction. So using some of the methods we can get out of this compromised passwords. You can also use different methods for implementing one-time passwords. The first one is the user can use a book containing a list of passwords. Or the second method is, every time a user logouts, the system will ask to select a new password for the next login. Okay, and the third method is, some special equipment is required such as smart cards or any synchronized password generators in order to generate the random passwords, and it will changes every minute so that the database is synchronized, okay, for generating OTP. In the next user login authentication is identifying and discouraging unauthorized users. So here uh, we will not give access to an unauthorized user, and we will check or verify it via the username and the password. Okay. And the single sign-on mechanism is, in a distributed client-server environment, a user will run many client programs, and his or her node can be accessed by many server programs. So if a simple password-based authentication scheme is used, in such a case the user's password must be presented each time a server wants to authenticate the client. So it is somewhat inconvenient, and one of the simple way to solve this problem is to cache the user's password on his or her host login time. But this is some of the dangerous to keep passwords in cache. So another Kerberos mechanism, authentication mechanism we will use for this single sign-on, and we will see that Kerberos authentication system in 2 minutes. And the next is one-way authentication of communicating entities. So we will see first the protocols based on symmetric crypto systems. I want to give a review on the symmetric crypto systems and asymmetric crypto systems. That I hope you remember that in symmetric crypto systems we will use single key for the process of encryption and decryption, and in asymmetric key crypto systems we will use the pair of keys, that is public key and private key. Okay. First, we will see the protocols based on symmetric crypto systems. So this one we have covered in symmetric crypto systems, and the knowledge of the shared key allows an entity to encrypt and decrypt the data. So without the knowledge of the key, any entity cannot encrypt or decrypt a message. So two entities must know the shared key before the process of encryption and decryption. So here identity of each user is by sending messages. We have seen this earlier in our cryptography classes, and here authentication is in the form of one-way authentication protocol based on symmetric encryption is in this approach. That is, A sends a message to B that I am the identifier of user A. I am the user A, want to communicate to you. And what M2 will send? M2 in the message M2, the B will send a random number generated by the user B, and it will be reaching to A. So what A will send again? A message M3 in which it contains the ciphertext and an encrypted form of the key it will send. So what is NR? NR is sent by the B in the process of acknowledgement, and here A is encrypting even that random number or any function which supports that random number, and along with the key is sent via the message M3. So where here the key is the symmetric key which is shared between A and B, and B will decrypt this message using the key, and it compares the result with the original NR. If they are equal, means NR is generated by B only, no? So it will be compared with original NR. If they are equal, A is accepted, otherwise rejected. So this is one type of authentication mechanism, and it is one-way authentication protocol based. Okay. And this one is also one-way authentication protocol based on these symmetric crypto systems, but here we are using the centralized authentication server, centralized approach. We have seen this centralized approach, distributed, fully distributed approach, and partially distributed approach in our previous class. In that, where the identities of different entities and the keys will be maintained in the form of a table by KDC, we have seen there. But here, as we are dealing with the authentication process, there will be authentication server in a centralized system, and the authentication server will prove the identity of any entity. Okay. So AS here stands for authentication server. IDA stands for this identifier of user A, identifier of user B, and similarly KA stands for the secret key of user A, KB stands for the secret key of user B. Okay. Only thing is here the authentication is verified by the authentication server instead of each entities. Everything is same. See here M1 is equal to identity of A. Here M1 sent one message to entity B, and M2 will generate a random number, and M3 will contains the encrypted form of this random number comma the key, and B is sending M4 message to authentication server that that is ciphertext C2 is equal to E of identity of A comma C1 this one comma KB, means it is encrypted with this. What a authentication server will do, it retrieves the random number first by decrypting the C2 with KB and then decrypts C1 with KA. Okay, B is key, this one is AS key. Both will be shared with the authentication server previously, and it authenticates whether A and B are correct entities or not. If at all both entities have proved their identities correctly, then authentication server will send a message M5. In that it gives or it sends the message C3, that is ciphertext 3. In that what it contains, the random number which has generated by B and also the secret key of B. Like this, B decrypts this C3 with KB and it compares the result with the original NR. If they are equal, then it will accept A entity, otherwise it will reject. So this is one of the authentication protocol based on the symmetric crypto system and using a centralized authentication server. As we are previously sharing the keys KA and KB of both entities, this authentication server will maintain the table of secret keys of each user and it will authenticate the user. Now we have seen the two approaches which are based on symmetric crypto system, and now the protocols based on asymmetric crypto systems. Here also we will have two approaches, which one based on one-way authentication protocol without the centralized authentication server, and next is with authentication server. So here protocols based on symmetric crypto systems we have covered. Only difference is in symmetric crypto systems we will use K here, means as it is a shared key crypto system, on both entities we will use it as a K. But here we will use SA, that is secret key of A, SB like secret key of B, like that we will use. Once again I want to repeat, asymmetric crypto systems uses pair of keys, that is public key and private key. Public key need not be kept secret. They can be known to all the public. Any entity want to send data to B, then they will use the B's public key to encrypt the data. After receiving, B will decrypt that data using its private key. Okay. So here M1, now A and B want to communicate. Assume that A and B want to communicate, and ID A is nothing but the identity of user A, and M2 is generating a random number and it will be sent back to A. Here M3 is equal to the encrypted form of this random number generated by B, means I have received the nonce or any acknowledgement sent by you, like that, comma SA, secret key of user A will be sent. So here authentication is based on asymmetric crypto system, and B will decrypt the C1 message by using the public key of user A, and it compares the result with the original nonce. It only generated that random number, no B. Now whether A only received my message or not, how it will identify? With the help of this nonce RNR, random number. After comparing the random number, it will authenticate that okay, he is the user to whom I want to communicate, that is A. Otherwise, if this random number is not matched, then it will reject that communication. This one is very much similar to previous one, but here there will be an authentication server. This authentication server public key is in a SS server secret key, and it also maintains the database of public keys. All public keys database is maintained here. PA stands for public key of A, SA stands for secret key of A. And the thing is very much similar. Secret key and public key. A will maintain a pair of keys, right? One to encrypt the data and decrypt the data. So public key and secret key. A also maintaining, B also maintaining. Secret key of authentication server is also there. And in this process, the B retrieves all the messages and it decrypts it via PS, public key of this authentication server, and decrypts C1 with PA. Okay. Identity of A, M2 is random number, C1 is equal to E of NR comma SA. SA is what? Secret key of A, M3. Okay. And M4 is sent to here with the identity of A and RB requesting the public key of user A. It requests, and here what M5 is sending the secret key of authentication server, and so that it can decrypt this message. M5B can decrypt this message and it get the identity of A and public key of A so that they can communicate. Okay. So these are the protocols based on one-way authentication scheme. We have seen these both types, one-way authentication on symmetric and asymmetric crypto systems. Now, two-way authentication of communicating entities. Two-way authentication means both the entities should confirm mutually. So, tasks taken in distributed systems always over multiple hosts, and to achieve this higher throughput, we have to balance the utilization of the resources, and mutual authentication can be achieved by performing one-way authentication in twice. Means if communicating users A and B want to communicate each other, A can first authenticate B by performing one-way authentication, and then B will authenticate A by repeating the same process. Okay, here the roles of A and B will be reversed. That's it. For the first time, A is checking B, and after the identification of B, the B will verify the user A. So here we will have this database of public keys, and all the public key and secret key will be maintained, and mutual authentication of communicating entities will require 7 messages. So M1 to M7 requires 7 messages, and it is based purely on asymmetric crypto system, and it uses a centralized authentication server. So it is assumed that two users A and B want to communicate to each other, and so they have to authenticate each other. Here PA, SA are the public and secret keys of user A. PB, SB are the public and secret keys of user B. Further, PS and SS are the public and secret keys of authentication server. Here you can remember it via S. S stands for server. So they are the public and secret keys of authentication server. So in the first step we will see M1. In the first step, the user requests the authentication server in the form of message M1 indicating that I want to establish a secure communication channel to communicate with user B. So it contains the request RA and the identification number IDA of A, and with whom it want to communicate that identification, that is IDB. And then after receiving, the authentication server will extract the public key of B, which corresponds to the identity of B, that is PB. It encrypts that message and sends it to the A. It encrypts it via SS, secret key of authentication server. And now A will decrypt that message using the public key of authentication server, and it sends the message M3 to B. B will decrypt that message by using the secret key SB. See here, whenever the message is received by A, it will decrypt it with the secret key of A. Whenever the message is received to B, it decrypts that message using secret key of B. Always decryption will proceed with the process of secret by using secret key. Okay, in the similar manner, after verification of that identity A, identity B, it generates a random number NA, and in C3 it encrypts the data of RB, identity of A, B and nonce, and it encrypts the data using PS, authentication public key. And it is received by M4 is received by AS, and it is generating M5. What is M5 means? C4 comma C6. What C4 contains? Identity of A, the public key of A, encrypted it with the secret key, and C6 also contains the encrypted form of C5 comma public key of CB. All will be sent to the B, and in turn it will generate M6 message and sends to A. A will confirm it from the authentication server. M6 is encrypted form of C5. What is C5? This identity, key, comma, nonce of A. And it encrypts it via the public key of, with the help of public key, and it sends to the authentication server. It will be authenticated and gives back the key. So B decrypts this C8 with the session key K and compares the result with the original value. See here, A is sending back that message to B. All will happen in few seconds. So it will compare that original value of NB. If they are equal, it is sufficient to prove that it can establish a communication channel between A and B. And key is securely transferred, and it is now secure to use for transferring the messages. So both A and B are authenticated using authentication server. So this is the two-way authentication approach. Draw this diagram and explain it about the two-way authentication.